Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 6 Part 7 based on novel. So let's start. The medicinal pill that was made up of alternating black and white color was quietly suspended above a black-colored rock pillar. In contrast to the other medicinal pills, which were emitting a pungent pill chi, this medicinal pill appeared extremely quiet. In fact, one could not even sense the slightest pill chi from it, and even the pill fragrance was absent. At a glance, it appeared just like a black and white spherical rock. However, based on the seemingly uncontrolled rippling aura that was being emitted from within the stone talisman, Lin Dong could tell that this medicinal pill in front of his eyes should be the thing that little Martin dreamed of. Moreover, it was the thing which Lin Dong's group had found after so much difficulty, the samsara pill. Phew! Lin Dong's breathing quietly became a little heavier. He looked at the medicinal pill in front of him. Even with his self-control, he still felt his head turning a little dizzy because of it. This was because once they had this item, little Martin would be able to regain its physical body. In fact, it would not be impossible for it to regain its peak strength in the future. Lin Dong inhaled 2 deep breaths as he suppressed his surging heart. Without further ado, his body moved and reached towards the samsara pill. Swoosh! However, just as Lin Dong was about to make a move, countless sharp winds suddenly rushed over from behind him. Moreover, they aimed right at his fatal spots. It was likely that the one who had attacked was quite vicious. Clang clang! That attack caused Lin Dong's eyes to become chill. Before he could counter, the black-colored metal rod in Little Flame's hand swept over. It directly struck explosively towards the many sharp wind that had pounced over. Swoosh! Many figures had already rushed over from behind Lin Dong during that brief instance. From a short distance behind Lin Dong, their eyes were filled with greed as they stared at the samsara pill suspended above the black rock pillar. Clearly, they had also recognized this renowned medicinal pill. This thing was rumored to be able to keep one alive regardless of how seriously one was injured, as long as one still had a breath remaining. This was something similar to a protective talisman. By obtaining it, one would be equivalent to possess another life. Why did you guys attack me suddenly? Lin Dong slowly turned around. He looked at the many figures who appeared behind him. These people were clearly from some strong high-ranked empires. Their 2 leaders have all stepped into the 2 Yuan Nirvana stage and were quite powerful. In fact, they were not inferior to Song Duan and the others whom Lin Dong had met earlier. This friend, since you were the first to reach here, you have already obtained quite a handful of valuable medicinal pills. You should always show a little restraint in your actions. It is not too good to wipe this place clean, is it? That green-clothed man spoke with a faint voice. Lin Dong glanced at him and involuntarily laughed. Although some of the special medicinal pills in this place had been snatched by Lin Dong and Little Flame, quite a number of medicinal pills still remained. It was baseless to say that he had wiped the place clean. What do you all want? We can discuss about it. Since you are the first to reach here, it is only right that you obtain something. However, please give this medicinal pill to us. What do you say? The green-clothed man pointed at the samsara pill and smilingly said. He was not afraid of angering Lin Dong. There were 4 people on their side who had reached the strength of a 2 Yuan Nirvana stage expert. The remaining 2 were at the peak of the 1 Yuan Nirvana stage. On the other hand, Lin Dong's group consists of only 1 Yuan Nirvana stage experts. Lin Dong narrowed his eyes. His expression was a little unfriendly. You are Lin Dong who defeated Shakuan, right? It is rumored that you possess the qualification to fight with 2 Yuan Nirvana stage experts. However, let me give you a word of advice, it is best not to be too arrogant. Another 2 Yuan Nirvana stage expert beside the green-clothed man sensed Lin Dong's unfriendly expression and laughed coldly. If you have the confidence to fight the both of us alone, you can give it a try. A coldness flashed across Lin Dong's eyes. However, just as he was preparing to send these 2 fellows flying, Little Martin's voice suddenly sounded, "Let them." Lin Dong was startled by the sudden words. He immediately frowned but did not say anything more. Instead, he grabbed Little Flame's shoulders and pulled back a little. Big brother. Little Flame was also stunned by this action from Lin Dong. There was some uncertainty in his eyes as he looked at Lin Dong. He did not appear to understand Lin Dong's intention. Ha ha, brother Lin Dong is really a sensible person. I will remember this favor. That green-clothed man involuntarily smiled when he saw Lin Dong step aside. His eyes contained a gloating expression that could not be hidden. Meanwhile, a disdain quietly formed in his heart. This fellow, who had caused a huge uproar, was merely a timid mouse. Shakuan had really lost all his face by being defeated in his hands. The green-cloaked man's eyes withdrew from Lin Dong and shifted upwards. A greedy expression flashed across his eyes when he stared at the samsara pill on the rock pillar above. After which, his body rushed out without the slightest hesitation. An increasing number of experts were hurrying to this pill room. It was likely that these fellows were intending to remove the most precious treasure in the pill room before those people arrived. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed as he looked at the green-clothed man, who had rushed forward. His fists involuntarily tightened slowly under his sleeves. Threads of dense killing intent surged out from deep within his eyes. When Lin Dong was unable to endure any longer and was about to attack, however, the green-clothed man was already in front of the samsara pill. After which, he grabbed at the pill with his hand. Sizzle sizzle. An unexpected change suddenly occurred at this moment. That green-clothed man had already quite cautious. His entire hand had turned into a bright golden color when it was extended. Clearly, he had unleashed the Nirvana golden body to the limit. Moreover, surging yuan power surged out when he activated the golden body. He clearly appeared fully armed. Even though he was fully armed, however, the golden glow dimmed at a shocking pace when the green-clothed man was half a foot away from the samsara pill. Even his arm began to wither. Ah! A sharp screech was emitted from the green-clothed man's mouth. His shriveling hand was spreading at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as though it intended to spread over his entire body. Swore. The face of the green-clothed man, which originally contained a pleased expression, had become distorted because of fear. However, this fellow clearly also seemed to have sensed that he was caught in a trap. He suddenly clenched his teeth, raised his blade and actually directly cut his own arm off. Blood scattered. That green-clothed man flew backwards in a miserable manner. Finally, he violently landed onto the ground. He grabbed his arm and howled miserably. His companion also hurried forward. Lin Dong, who had witnessed all of these, also violently inhaled a breath of cool air. His eyes were shocked as he looked at the samsara pill that was floating quietly. Clearly, he did not expect that this medicinal pill was actually this peculiar. In merely an instant, it had actually turned the arm of a 2-yuan Nirvana stage expert into some withered lifeless bones. If the first person who charged forward was Lin Dong, it was likely that he would definitely pay some price even with his many tactics. It is indeed the ring of life and death. Little Martin's solemn voice sounded at this moment. Ring of life and death. Lin Dong was stunned. Clearly, this term was a little foreign to him. This ring of life and death is something that only the experts who had mysterious life and death realm can create. When this samsara pill is formed, it would birth the ring of life and death. This thing cannot be seen with one's naked eyes. However, the life of anyone who touch it will immediately disappear, Little Martin explained. I was uncertain about whether this samsara pill is protected by the ring of life and death earlier. That is why I did not allow you to be the first to touch it. However, from the looks of it now, it is right to be a little more cautious. Can we undo it? Lin Dong knitted his brows and asked. By putting it in this manner, would it not mean that even he would not be able to obtain it? It is a little troublesome. This life and death chi is not something that you Nirvana stage experts could resist, Little Martin voiced his thoughts. Life and death chi. Lin Dong curled his mouth. Suddenly, he recalled the black-eyed old man whom he had met at the Great Wasteland's ancient tablet. The latter seemed to have reached this mysterious stage. What do we do now? Lin Dong glanced at the miserable green-clothed man and asked within his heart. Wait for a while. I also need some time in order to find out how to break this ring of life and death, little Martin replied. After which, it became silent. Clearly, it was thinking of a solution. The green-clothed man by the side was finally able to stop his blood while little Martin was remaining silent. His expression was pale as he stood up. However, his gaze was extremely vicious as it looked towards Lindong and roared, "You knew that this would happen, right? That is why you purposefully allowed us to charge right at the front." The companions of the green-clothed man also stared at Lindong with vicious eyes. Clearly, their hearts were extremely furious. Lindong knitted his brows in the face of this green-clothed man's roar. His eyes also gradually turned icy cold. He turned his head, stared at the four individuals and slowly said, "It's your own fault for being greedy. Get lost. Brat, you are seeking death." The expressions of the four individuals turned into a fury green color when they heard Lindong's words. "Ha ha, it seems that this place is quite lively." However, just when the green-clothed man and the three others could no longer control themselves and were about to attack, the sound of wind being parted suddenly sounded. A faint laughter reverberated from a short distance away. Finally, it reached a spot not far from the black-colored rock pillar. His gaze looked at the rotating samsara pill on the top of the rock pillar not far away. A satisfied smile was lifted on his face. This place is indeed worthy of being the pill grounds of the four great mysterious sects. It even possessed such a medicinal pill. Lindong's eyes scintillated slightly as he looked at the figure which had appeared. His expression immediately became a little solemn. The ripple that was emitted from the latter's body was far stronger than the green-clothed man. Clearly, he was not an ordinary 2-yuan nirvana stage expert. Have I finally met a troublesome person? Lindong curled his lips. He could sense that this person was extraordinary. It seems that he also possessed quite a great reputation within this northwestern region. However, Lindong was unaware of who this great being was and where he originated from. This fight for the samsara pill was becoming increasingly lively. The man who had suddenly appeared was wearing a glaring red robe. There seemed to be a faint bloody scent spreading from him, informing others that the person before them was definitely no saint despite the friendly smile on his face. When the green-clothed man and the others by the side saw this smiling red-robed man, their expressions suddenly changed as they cried out in alarm, "Violent Wolf Tianjin! Violent Wolf Tianjin!" Lindong's lips tightened a little when he heard this form of address. A grave expression flashed across his eyes. There were four great overlords of this northwestern region. Demon Spear Liu Bai, Mountain Shattering Axe Jiang Shan, Beast Fist Mu Shou and Violent Wolf Tianjin. To think that the one who had appeared was actually one of the four overlords of the northwestern region, Violent Wolf Tianjin, who was ranked alongside Liu Bai. Ha ha, so it is actually someone from the Desert North Empire. The red-robed man glanced at the green-clothed man and replied with a friendly smile. However, this smile contained some chilly aura when it landed in the eyes of the green-clothed man and the others. Everyone knew that this Tianjin might appear friendly on the surface, but deep down, he was an extremely brutal and ruthless man. Otherwise, he would not end up with the name Violent Wolf. You must be that Lindong, right? It is rumored that even that fellow Liu Bai thinks highly of you. Tianjin merely glanced at the green-clothed man. After which, he turned his eyes towards Lindong and smilingly said, "I have met him once and it cannot be said that I am held in high regard by him." Lindong's voice was calm. He did not appear as terrified as the green-clothed man and the others. This Tianjin's aura was indeed extremely powerful, and it was likely that he possessed the ability to attempt the third nirvana tribulation. He was many times stronger than an ordinary 2-yuan nirvana stage expert. However, his level was insufficient for Lindong to feel fearful. Tianjin's eyes narrowed in the face of this calm attitude of Lindong. His large hand curled. Anyone who knew him understood that he was a little displeased with Lindong's attitude. Swoosh swoosh. An increasing number of experts were attracted to this pill room after Tianjin showed himself. Within a short couple of minutes, numerous figures landed one after another and hurried into the pill room. After which, all of they also gathered towards this middle area where everyone was. That is Samsara pill. Those who had arrived at this place saw the black-white medicinal pill suspended over the stone pillar immediately after they arrived. Soon after, numerous exclamations resounded in a wave-like fashion. Lin Dong's brows were involuntarily knitted together as he looked at the many greedy eyes that suddenly shot from all around him. Seems like he was unable to obtain the samsara pill before it caused a commotion. That is violent Wolf Tianjin. I didn't expect him to be here as well. Those eyes, which had become boiling hot because of the samsara pill, suddenly turned towards the red-robed man in front of them. Immediately, quite a number of their expressions changed. Clearly, the reputation of this violent Wolf Tianjin was quite strong. Moreover, all of them also clearly understood Tianjin's character. He was a ruthless person. It was rumored that only some time ago, a 2 Nirvana stage expert was viciously killed by him in an exchange. Hence, there were no one who dared to offend this fiend. I am quite fond of this samsara pill. I believe that everyone here will help me to fulfill my wish of obtaining it, right? Tianjin ignored the surrounding gazes. He stared at the samsara pill before immediately speaking with a smile. Although he wore a smile on his face and his tone was an inquiring one, everyone in this pill room was completely silent as they sensed the surging violence under Tianjin's smile. Green and white mixed on the faces of the green-clothed man and the others. Their eyes flickered and immediately spoke in a sinister manner. The first person who arrived is Lin Dong. Although his words did not contain much meaning, it caused Tianjin's smilingly eyes to look towards Lin Dong. He smilingly inquired, "Brother Lin Dong will not mind, will you?" Lin Dong glanced indifferently at the green-clothed man and the others. Finally, he lowered his eyes and replied, "I need this samsara pill. Anyone who wished to obtain it should rely on their own strength." What a joke! Lin Dong had undergone so much in order to obtain this samsara pill. Although this Tianjin had a powerful reputation, he had overestimated his so-called reputation, if he thought that was enough to force Lin Dong to back off. The surrounding people were startled at these words of Lin Dong, which did not intend to give in. Immediately, a pitiful expression flashed across their eyes. They had heard about the news of Lin Dong having defeated Shakuan. However, Tianjin was not someone that Shakuan could compare with. This brutal and ruthless fellow had even killed 2 Nirvana stage experts. A cold smile flashed across the green-clothed man when he saw this. Lin Dong actually dared to rebuke him in front of so many people. With the latter's character, it was likely that he would not forgive Lin Dong. Numerous gazes gathered towards the red-robed figure. The latter's face still wore a smile. However, there was a faint fierceness that flashed across it. "I do not like others snatching my things." Tianjin's hand slowly tightened. Immediately, he walked forward and faintly said, "Receive one blow from me and I will give you the right to fight with me for the samsara pill." Lin Dong grinned. This Tianjin had indeed released his domineering aura. However, from the way Lin Dong saw it, this domineering aura was a little foolish. Did he really think that obtaining the title as one of the 4 great overlord of the northwestern region was sufficient to allow him to become extremely arrogant in this place? There are countless number of experts in this ancient battlefield and there were many hidden experts lurking around. It was clearly not his turn to display this arrogance. Just attack. Gutsy. Tianjin parted his mouth and grinned. The dense white teeth that he revealed contained a dense chillness. Clamor. The surrounding people emitted a shuttling sound as they swiftly withdrew after seeing the two facing each other maliciously. However, they felt a tinge of regret when they looked at Lin Dong. Although Tianjin's overbearing arrogance was indeed dislikable, it was based off his strength. The number of people who could beat him in this northwestern region could be counted with one's fingers. Clearly, Lin Dong was not one of them. Tianjin stared at Lin Dong. The smile on his face withdrew a little. Meanwhile, a haughty aura slowly spread apart from within his body. Tianjin at this moment seemed to match with the name Violent Wolf. Boom! Tianjin's feet stomped onto the ground. At this moment, he was just like a woken fierce beast. A blood redness climbed up both of his eyes. In the next instant, his entire body directly transformed into a red glow and rushed out. There was even an afterimage remaining on his original spot. Lin Dong, I have never held back when fighting with anyone, regardless of strength. If you cannot handle this attack, then die. Tianjin's figure had appeared in the midair in front of Lin Dong within an instant. Surging yuan power spat out, after which it agglomerated on his palm at a shocking speed. Thousand Wolves' army breaking fist. A low and deep densely cold cry was emitted from Tianjin's throat. The surging yuan power transformed into tens of thousands of dashing wolf figures. All of them contained a merciless aura as they ruthlessly encircled Lin Dong. Tianjin's attack was indeed as completely merciless as he had described. This fist was something that even an ordinary 2 yuan nirvana stage had difficulty receiving. If Lin Dong's genuine strength was truly reflected on his surface, this fist would mostly likely be able to end his life. The expressions of those surrounding experts changed slightly in the face of this vicious attack from Tianjin. The name Violent Wolf was indeed fitting. It was likely that this fellow had the most fearsome reputation amongst the 4 great overlords. Tens of thousands of wolves dashed forward and were swiftly magnified in Lin Dong's eyes. A serious expression also surged up his face. Yuan power, mental energy, and devouring power surged out from within his body. Finally, they were swiftly poured into that ancient universe formation. Bang bang! A merged force that was greyish-black in color spat out from within Lin Dong's body. There was a strange ripple being vaguely emitted at the same time. Great desolate imprisoning heavenly finger. The merged force swiftly gathered. Within the blink of an eye, it transformed into an ancient large finger. However, it not bright in color. Instead, it was greyish-black. At a glance, it was permeated in mystery. This was the first time that Lin Dong had used this force that was merged from 3 types of energy to mix with the martial arts ever since he gained control of such an energy. This usage did indeed greatly exhaust Lin Dong's yuan power, mental energy, and the devouring power. However, its might was something that did not even need to be mentioned. Bang! The greyish-black enormous finger wrapped around Lin Dong's body. It carried a frightening momentum that could crumble the world as it violently collided with the tens of thousands of wolves without hesitation. The entire pill room trembled intensely at this moment. Those surrounding experts also swiftly pulled back. A shocked expression flashed in the eyes of the green-clothed man's group. In fact, Lin Dong's attack even caused them to feel a sense of danger. It was likely that if they were the ones facing such an attack, they would likely wound up in a miserable state. The wild and violent energy swept apart like a storm in the midair. Some of the stone pillars within the pill room were blasted apart when struck by the energy. 2 figures also shot out from the aftermath of the explosion. Finally, they landed on the ground and took a couple of swift steps back. Only then did they stabilize their bodies. Numerous eyes were shot over almost at that very instant. The clothes of the 2 people who had appeared were somewhat tattered. The yuan power over them fluctuated intensely. From the looks of it, they appeared to have actually ended up in a draw. That Lin Dong, he actually received Tianjin's attack. Some people faced each other. Their eyes were filled with a stunned expression. Clearly, their hearts were quite shaken because of this result. Everyone knew that this Tianjin had never held back regardless of his opponent's strength in any fight. He had only used 1 attack earlier, but the strength of it was sufficient to severely injure a 2 yuan nirvana stage expert. Nonetheless, it was still blocked by Lin Dong. His genuine strength was truly hidden and deep. The eyes of the green-clothed man's group had shrunk because of this. They looked at Lin Dong's calm face and vaguely understood why the latter was not the least bit courteous to them. Lin Dong's actual fighting strength had already surpassed theirs. There are many powerful people in this ancient battlefield. If one was too arrogant, one would eventually strike a hard metal plate. Lin Dong looked at Tianjin, whose expression was a little dense. His voice was calm. After which, he turned around and directly rushed towards the samsara pill above. After which, his hand grabbed onto it. Little Martin already had a method to resolve the ring of life and death. Lin Dong's body rushed out in front of the eyes of many people while his hands reached for the samsara pill. Due to the influence from the earlier big battle with Tianjin, no one actually dared to intervene and stopped him at that moment. Instead, numerous figures let out a swish sound as they turned towards Tianjin. Right now, the smile on Tianjin's face had finally completely disappeared. His eyes contained a faint crimson color. They appeared a little distorted and looked exceptionally frightening. Metal plate? Ignorant fool. You have overestimated yourself. A densely cold bone-chilling voice was finally emitted from Tianjin's mouth in a slow manner. His voice was filled with a sinister aura that could not be hidden. The hearts of everyone in the pill room leaped when they heard this voice. Tianjin seemed to be showing signs of exploding. Do you really think that just because Liu Bai thinks highly of you, you can treat yourself as some great person? Today, I will let you see just how hard you, this metal plate, can be. Boom! Tianjin's voice suddenly sounded. At the same time, his body also rushed out from the ground. Surging yuan power churned around his body as waves after waves of powerful pressure swept apart, causing the breathing of the people around to turn ragged. Bang! Tianjin was in the midair, as he threw a punch forward. A sharp fist wind containing a piercing cold killing intent, ruthlessly struck towards Lin Dong, who was grabbing towards the samsara pill. Lin Dong's eyes turned cold as he sensed the wind that once again come attacking him from behind. However, just as he was about to turn around and retaliate, a strong figure appeared behind him. That figure was Little Flame. Big brother, just focus on obtaining the samsara pill. Leave this person to me. The black-colored metal rod in Little Flame's hand suddenly shook. Those scales on it sprang apart, emitting a densely cold glow. After which, it was suddenly shot out and ruthlessly collided with the sharp yuan power wind. Boom! A low and deep blast was emitted from the point of contact. After which, a wild and fierce wind swept apart. A black glow surged and appeared when it was about to reach Little Flame, completely blocking this powerful wind. Lin Dong was momentarily stunned when he saw Little Flame intervene. Immediately, he gave a nod. Although Little Flame's strength was also that of a 1 yuan nirvana stage, his original form was of the heavenly devil tiger tribe. Hence, his physical body was much stronger than Lin Dong. Moreover, he also possessed quite a number of skills. Even if Tianjin wanted to finish him off, it would be no simple task. Fool who do not know what is good for you. With your skill, you actually dare to fight me. Tianjin could not help but let out a furious laughter when he saw Little Flame intervening. He had heard a little of Lin Dong's reputation, therefore, he did not feel that it was unbelievable for Lin Dong to be able to receive his attack earlier. However, did this fellow really think that his subordinate also had the qualification to fight with him? Little Flame was expressionless. His eyes stared at Tianjin as waves of energy swam around the surface of his body. There was a vague, seemingly low and deep tiger roar that was being emitted from his moving muscles. The other people within the pill room was also startled at this scene. They were aware of Lin Dong's name but were unaware of the background of this strong giant-like big fellow, who was standing behind the former. Moreover, from the looks of it, the latter was only just at the 1 yuan nirvana stage. Could it be that he also has hidden abilities just like Lin Dong? Get lost! At this moment, Tianjin no longer had even the slightest demeanor from when he had just appeared. The fierce and brutal expression on his face caused one to feel a chill within one's heart just by looking at it. If it was an ordinary person, it was likely that he would have directly been suppressed by this fierceness of Tianjin. Unfortunately, the one whom he was facing at this moment was someone who possessed a human form, but had a heart which was even fiercer and more brutal than him. Clamor! Hence, when Tianjin charged forward with a savage expression, Little Flame did not step back. Instead, the surging black-colored energy swept apart, wrapping the metal rod in his hand. After which, the metal rod contained all the strength from his body, as he mercilessly smashed it at Tianjin. Being a demonic beast, Little Flame had a natural-born advantage when it came to his physical strength. Now that he had used his full force, the torn wind emitted an ear-piercing sound. Even Tianjin's eyes narrowed slightly. After which, surging yuan power surged out. His body trembled before a bright golden glow surged out from within him, directly forming a substance-like golden glow barrier in front of him in the process. Clang! The metal rod smashed heavily onto the golden glow barrier and it immediately created a clear metallic sound. Ripples swiftly vibrated. However, it ultimately did not shatter. Your strength is quite good. However, you cannot break my golden body barrier. The golden glow vibrated as a ferocious smile flashed over the face of Tianjin within it. His fist penetrated through the light barrier as the yuan power on it formed the shape of a wolf's head. After which, it contained a rolling ripple that smashed towards Little Flame's chest. Tiger Demon Armor. Black glow flashed over Little Flame's body. Finally, it directly transformed into a black-colored tiger pattern light armor. Some dim luster was flickering on the armor, which appeared exceptionally hard. Boom! Tianjin's fist heavily landed on the tiger pattern light armor. Something similar to a tiger roar was emitted from the armor as a mysterious strength surged out. This strength actually forcefully suppressed Tianjin's strength. Rumble. A fierce expression also suddenly flashed past Little Flame's eyes after directly and forcefully receiving a blow from Tianjin. The metal rod suddenly danced, transforming into numerous rod after images that covered Tianjin from all directions. Tianjin's face was filled with an evil aura as he looked at Little Flame's attack. The surging yuan power formed the shape of a wolf, as it whizzed out and collided violently with the rod shadows that permeated the sky. Boom! Everyone in the pill room looked at the fiery hot battle in the midair. A rich shocked expression filled their eyes. Clearly, they did not expect that the giant person who was standing behind Lin Dong like an attendant was actually this strong. While Little Flame and Tianjin were engaged in an intense battle behind him, Lin Dong's hand was already half a foot away from the samsara pill. However, his hand did not show signs of withering. This was because a purple-black colored energy was wrapped around it. Although Lin Dong had managed to block the withering, his hand seemed to be only able to use this extremely slow speed to approach the samsara pill a bit at a time. It was obvious that Lin Dong could not be distracted at this moment. All he could do was to leave Little Flame to handle Tianjin. Clang clang. The rod shadow rushed past with a lightning-like speed and ruthlessly landed on the golden body barrier around Tianjin. Clear metallic-like sound erupted in the process. The blows that were exchanged between the two were all extremely vicious and they were merciless in their attacks. However, both of them did possess something to protect their bodies. Hence, despite the battle appearing fierce and ruthless, there were no overly obviously injuries appearing on their bodies. This scene clearly caused the two people involved to be extremely displeased. Tianjin was one of the 4 overlords of this northwestern region. His reputation was extremely great. He was already extremely displeased that Lin Dong had successfully received an attack by him today. Now that Little Flame had appeared, his displeasure had clearly reached its limit. If news of this matter were to spread, it would be quite a severe blow to his reputation. He did not want some stalemate. Instead, he wanted a genuine victory. Similarly, this manner of thought had also unexpectedly appeared in Little Flame's heart despite the fact that he was in a disadvantageous situation. Being a demonic beast which possessed the bloodline of the heavenly devil tiger tribe, his desire to win was also at an incomparable level. Boom! The metal rod in Little Flame's hand suddenly flew out of his hands, before a low and deep tiger roar was suddenly emitted from within his mouth. The roar was filled with a strange pressure. Black-colored energy surged out from within Little Flame's body like floodwaters. In the next instant, it vaguely formed a black-colored large tiger shape behind it. Heaven Devil God Transformation, Tiger Roar Transformation. Little Flame's tiger leg stepped forward. Both of his hands curled into a claw shape. After which, they formed numerous strange seals in a lightning-like manner. Finally, his hands pressed together before he widened his mouth like a furious tiger and roared at the sky. Roar? The black-colored large tiger behind him roared towards the sky before transforming into a black glow that gathered on Little Flame's tiger claw. Finally, the claw was accompanied by a terrifying ripple as it turned into a roaring large black-colored tiger with dancing claws as it suddenly wheezed out. Boom boom. The air let out a loud explosion as the large black-colored tiger rushed past. The speed of the black light was extremely fast. In an instant, it tore through the air and ruthlessly smashed onto the incomparably firm golden body barrier around Tianjin in front of the many stunned gazes. Bang! A shockingly wild and violent ripple spread apart. After which, a slight cracking sound appeared in front of Tianjin's shrunk eyes. Crack, crack. Cracked lines swiftly spread out. In the blink of an eye, the hard golden body barrier was covered with cracked lines. Finally, it emitted a boom sound and burst apart in front of the many shaken eyes. At the same time, Lin Dong's hand also penetrated through the ring of life and death. He grabbed the black-white mysterious medicinal pill that seemed to possess a merger of the yin and yang strength. This video will end here.